All month, we've been hitting this drumbeat of prosperity and success. And I know that a lot of people have been talking about all of our messages this month, so we're wrapping it up this month of holding the vision of prosperity and success on this fifth Sunday. And, this drumbeat. You know, sometimes, and what Peter and I have been focusing on all month, just so you know, if you haven't been here or you haven't seen all the messages, is to ensure that we give you some hows, some really good hows, so that you can put into practice in your life and to know how to bring more prosperity and success into your life. And are you all starting to put some of those practices to work, those hows? Yes, like how many people started their new groove in the past week? Okay, and if you don't know what that is, watch her talk. It truly was one of the most brilliant ones I've seen in 5 years. I'm still watching it and putting it into practice. So we want to share with you some hows and spiritual practices that you can truly put into use on a practical daily application. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes in my life, depending on who's telling me the how, sometimes I go, oh, good, I think I'll do that. And sometimes I go, no. Some of you have already finding this familiar. I remember when I was a young teenager, my family went camping with another family. And I remember this vividly. We were at the top of a hill, and I guess my mother must have known that I was about to run down that hill, so she gave me some advice, and she said, Karen, don't you run down that hill, you're going to fall and hurt yourself. Let it whip, wants to whip right back around. And so, she, I didn't want to listen to her, quite frankly, because she was telling me sort of how to do something or what not to do in that moment, and I didn't want to follow it, and so I didn't. And so I ran down that hill, and I fell and I hurt myself, and I got stitches in my knee because of it. But there are times where people that love and care about us really want to share something in the hopes and the faith and the trust that the people around us that we love will take it up. Okay, so I'm just letting you know in advance, this is one of those days for you. And yet, depending on your background, depending on what you've heard, depending on, if you've seen, there's some bad apples in every bunch, y'all, okay? But don't let the bad apples spoil the whole bunch, right? And so, so we're going to talk about something, and it is the most serious money magnet that I know of, that I've put into practice in my life. And it truly draws money into our life that we can use and we can circulate and we can express because of it. So this is a very serious and real spiritual practice that works. Some of you are already going, oh my goodness, really? Not this topic. Mm-hmm. Oh, some of you want to hear it. Great. I think I'm going to move on. Okay, good. So let's start with what Ernest Holmes has to say about this topic. He says that it seems as though everything in life is meant to circulate. It is meant to circulate. And the moment we stop the circulation, the very act of stopping that stagnates. What would have moved through us freely? We stop it. Just stagnant water. If you think of a lake, a pond, any kind of body of water, if the water doesn't continue through a stream or a river or whatever to flow through it, it becomes stagnant. What happens to that water once that flowing water is cut off? First of all, it's sidetracked from its own flow, and eventually that body of water starts to die, doesn't it? Yes. And he also continues to say that spirit, which is the creative life principle, is forever flowing through us. So it is always flowing through us, all the time. But we have been given the power or right. So we already have the power and we have the right to impede or stop its progress within our own selves. We're the only ones that control this flow, whether it continues to flow or it stops or it gets impeded. He says, we know we can tie a cord tightly around an arm and so inhibit the circulation of blood that congestion, stagnation, and infection will follow. Yes? I thought I'd try something for the first time. I'm going to ask Petra to assist me in this. And I'm going to ask you, if you would, while I'm up here, I want you to tie that as tight as you possibly can. Tighter. Oh, y'all are already starting to feel it. Actually, come here, Michael Grundy. She's not getting it tight enough. Sorry. It's okay. Stay with me, Petra.
Put your finger there.
Yeah, you can still help. There you go. Perfect. Ooh. I'm feeling that now. Okay, y'all are already starting to get concerned for me, aren't you? Jen's already holding. Okay, and what I want you to do is, I've not ever attempted this deliberately before, to stop the circulation of my life. Literally my life. And you're going to get to witness, and at some point, I don't know if I'm going to faint. I have no idea, okay? I'm just going to let this not flow for a little bit, just for a little bit, and see what happens to this body. Okay, it's already starting to pulsate and whatever. So this is the way it is, truly. This expression is the same expression as it has to do with your financial health, your financial wealth, and how your financial wherewithal circulates or not. This law of circulation is true. It works all the time. So all of a sudden, I've stopped the natural circulation of this body. And if I keep this up long enough, or as long as I can, something's going to happen to this body. It's already being blocked. And so imagine that when someone says, well, sacred giving is such a key. It's one of our 5 top spiritual practices. By the way, my stand up here, Petra, just so Richard has something to focus on, because I'm going to walk about here while I'm talking. Oh, okay, well, whatever. She said no one in the back's going to be able to see this, but I want you to start seeing what's happening to my hand. It's becoming red. It's becoming swollen. It's starting to tingle. And so I have truly cut off the circulation of this life force that's wanting to flow through me freely and fully. And imagine that somewhere in the past, some minister, some pastor, some rabbi, somebody, some faith leader with all this ancient wisdom within them has said, really, if you want your life to prosper, give, and give freely. We give freely of our love. Some of us, most of us, yes? Okay, we give freely of our love. If I stop the flow of the love out through me, then it does not come back to me. It stops. All of a sudden, I don't start receiving love. If I stop anything, if I stop being a service to this community, if I stop wanting to show up here and to be of service to this community, my job, if I stop that, and I do that long enough, and I don't give freely every day that I serve here, I guarantee you I won't be here much longer. Think of every job you've ever had, whether you give freely or not, every single day. This is the same for money. Someone's been practicing this and knows this. There are a few, I have some friends up here so that you don't just hear from me. Okay, so I'm going to ask Cindy.
So can we ask how long you can actually keep this up?
I don't know, but I trust my intuition.
Okay, good.
Okay? It's okay. But I want you to be uncomfortable with me being uncomfortable, because we are the same body. This is why I want all of us once and for all to open up our prosperity in the sake of our life. So Cindy, would you share a little bit about this topic called sacred giving, tithing, and how it's worked in your life and what it's done for you? And we're going to give her a microphone right here. This is Cindy Young. And y'all don't focus on me right now. Focus on Cindy.
She also got the boot memo.
I did not get the boot memo, but this is all about the one mind here. I mean, even the pink and the black. I mean, it was like, whew. So when I walked in here about 9 years ago, I was a hot mess just like Petra was. And I came in without any background in tithing at all, none whatsoever. I was raised to put a few dollars in the basket when it came across, and that was about the end of it. And that's what I was doing when I joined here. And the first time we did Adventures in Spirit, oh, did that make me uncomfortable? Are they kidding me? I just really didn't want to do that. But as the month went by, I finally said, well, I'll commit to $50 a month. I'll just go ahead and do that. So that was my first kind of tipping my toe into actually committing to giving. And over the years, I started just kind of, as I learned different spiritual practices and about the law of circulation, I started giving a little bit more, but I really didn't want to get out of my comfort zone. I had to really take time to build that consciousness of tithing. It wasn't something that I just went from 0 to 100% overnight. And at the point, and I went back today and I looked at my history of my salary increases at my job. And every year that I took a big leap of faith and went up, I got a really big raise. And I remember hearing Joe Tinker one year talking at the Adventures of Spirit when he was talking, and he said, I actually tithe for what I want to earn versus what I am earning. So I thought, I'm going to give that a try. So I went up $100 that year, $100 a month. It's quite a bit of money. That year, I got just short of a $12,000 raise. And so that was great. So the next year I said, no, I'm good. I'll just leave my tithe right where it was. Guess what? I got a cost of living increase that year. I said, I think I'm going to go back to that other idea. So I went and I did another $100 increase. And guess what? I got another $12,000 raise. And then I got the biggest bonus ever last year, as Karen knows, because I tithed against that bonus. So this year, she knew when it was time for me to get my raise and my bonus, because she had her eye on it. And she says, I know you're going to get the biggest bonus ever. And guess what? This year, I got the biggest bonus I've gotten in my entire career. And the first thing I did was write a check for 10% of that bonus and give it to CSLDallas, because this stuff really works here. And I continue to see how this works, but it's happened over time. I built the consciousness at the rate that I personally could have a mental equivalent for it. And I know it works. I watched it work, and I'm going to continue to build on that consciousness because it does work. And if I need help with that, I'll do my own prayer. I'll ask a practitioner, and I encourage all of you in here to use the practitioners in helping you build that consciousness. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I want you to notice, because yes, it is starting to have get ready, because you're probably going to have to take it off. You're the one who tied it tight. I want you to notice what's happening. See the difference? So I could tell you it's discoloring now. Look at the arm. Can you see this in the light? Everybody up front? Okay, there's a rash coming. Okay, I am feeling pain in my arm. There's massive pulsing going on. I want you to see it. So just, I want you to, okay, I understand. But I want you to feel this discomfort with me, because if one is not letting the flow of their life right now, you're in this discomfort. Anybody in discomfort financially? Okay, look at them. Don't you want me to have my good right now and take this off and let the circulation flow again? You want it really bad, don't you? I don't know. I don't think I want it. Stop it. So yes, come here, Michael. So the point is, this is what I want. This is what Peter wants. This is what the practitioners want. Anybody that's tithing, this is what they want for you. You can do it, baby. Yes, you can. I love it. He'll do anything to get that off. Okay. Yes. So, thank you. I know. So my body now, because I'm opening the flow again, it's going to come back to right where it needs to be to open up its healthy flow. Okay, I'm going to help it a little bit, right? I'm going to shake it off. This is what I want for this community. I don't want anyone to be under that anymore. And what I know to be true is, at least for me, in the past, there was a time where I would hear this from a pastor, a minister, a rabbi, or whatever, and maybe they weren't doing great things with that giving, okay? And they're like, oh, give till it hurts. Oh, come on, give, whatever. But like I said, there's a few that take advantage of this, not in this community, okay? So if that's running through you, I'm inviting you to just let that go, because we can open the flow at any given moment when it's been stagnant. We can open the flow at any given moment of anything in our life. And as Cindy said, we do it at our own pace. When I was in the Episcopal Church, I grew up in the Christian faith and philosophy, so I heard all this stuff about tithing, and I decided to put it to use. And when I moved to the Bay Area from Dallas in 1998 and went back to my roots and went into a community, they asked me very quickly to be on their board and to be chair of the stewardship corps, and so I knew that I had to be the example. As someone in that community, I had to be that example in order to be in leadership. And I'm just so grateful my flow is open. And I will use this as an anchor for me, that my flow is open again. And so anyway, I decided to take my time. And I thought, well, I'll give it 4 years. And I'll start at a certain percentage, and eventually, within 4 years, I'd be tithing, which to me meant 10% of my gross, of my income. I played around with net and gross and all that stuff, but at that moment, I decided, okay, well, I was 2 years away, and like Cindy just said, I made a pledge to that community, and I said, okay, I will give this much. But I really, in my heart, I knew I wanted to get to tithing, but it was going to take me 2 more years to get there. My plan. And so I gave a pledge. Let's just say it was $10,000. I don't remember. And so I gave this pledge. And I started giving that amount. The interesting thing was, I had a little different experience. Because in my heart, I really wanted to tithe. Well, I gave that. And that particular year, I made half of what I anticipated. But at the end of that year, I had given all that money. And I actually then, because of that, was tithing. I was at 10%. No one has to have this experience. But I'm sharing mine. But I became very aware. Oh my God, I'm there. I actually celebrated. I didn't celebrate that I made half of what I was anticipated. I celebrated that at the end of the year when the CPA said, oh my God, look at that. You gave away 10% of your gross. I went, oh, I'm there. I'm never moving off of there again. For 20 years, I've been doing this. 20 years. I give. Not from the overflow. I give first. First fruits. First fruits. It's ancient wisdom. It's not to trick to get money from you. It's to open up the flow, the circulation, the financial health of your life. Some people take that leap of faith. Some people, it takes a little while. Some people just decide, I'm just going to jump into the deep end of the ocean. Someone that has just really blown my mind in this past 2 years is someone I'd like for you to hear from now, and that's Kia Tillman. Will you share your story? Let me get you a mic.
Oh, I started tithing in October of 2018, so it's been almost 6 months now. And before that, I was in a lot of resistance. I was giving regularly, but I wasn't tithing. I was just so focused on I'd be losing 10%. I'd be losing money that I needed. I needed that money. But through spiritual work, I finally decided to just let go and just trust. So I changed my auto tithe to every 2 weeks when I get paid, 10% of my gross gets directly from my paycheck to CSLDallas because this is where I'm spiritually fed. And then every time I get extra money, I go online and I give 10% of that. And interesting things started happening. One, work became a lot easier. And so working extra hours to make additional income just got easier and easier. I received an award at work that included a cash bonus. I received a bonus that was much higher than I anticipated. And I had a friend who I loaned money to 5 years ago finally decided to pay me back. And so this year alone, I looked at how much money I pledged to give versus how much I've actually given just since the beginning of the year. And it's up 42% more than what I pledged because I have earned 42% more income than I anticipated. And I was just beyond shocked. And I am a true believer in TSRW. This shit really does work.
Thank you, Kia. Oh my gosh, yes. I stopped her in the hall last Sunday and I knew that she just recently started tithing. She made that decision. She made it public too. And I was like, so is it too early to see the fruits of that decision? She said, oh no, do I have some things to share. You also shared with me last Sunday, you said that your 401k investments are just going through the roof as well. 25%. She's up 25% in the 401k investments. So this is not for the sake of, a minister. One, yes, when you give to every single person in this community. But it's really for your own prosperity and your own financial health. This thing called sacred giving. So whatever, you're currently giving, up the ante. Decide your own thing about, are you ever going to tithe or not? Money is its symbol of exchange, and so as you saw with me, when the blood circulates freely, when it exchanges freely, it's very healthy. And the more that we keep it active, and we move that and we circulate it, the more I keep this body moving and circulating like this, the more healthy it is. It's the same with money. If we hold on to it tightly, what the universe is hearing from us is, I'm coming from a place of lack. I don't think I have enough. And the universe says, you're right, you don't. So if all of a sudden, Kia were to decide to go, well, all of this is great, so I actually want to keep all this. And so she too put something around this flow that she's been doing for 6 months, the universe, most likely, it's going to be impactful. So she's keeping the flow open. And so it's the same with our body. So everything is working the same way, and this has to do with our economic health. When we come from a place of fear or a place of lack, then everything around us is going, okay, we just mirror. It just mirrors back to us if we come from a place of fear. So if you've not ever started the practice of sacred giving, we have sacred service where people give time and their talents here. We have sacred giving. Then we have other spiritual practices like meditation and visioning and spiritual mind treatment. It's all for the health of our spiritual life so that we're more and more spiritual beings having a spiritual experience instead of spiritual beings having such a big human experience. And so this is a form of opening up that circulation and that flow. The way that helped me is I actually hold that nothing's mine anyway. The condo isn't mine, the car isn't mine, the chair isn't mine, the money isn't mine, the relationship isn't mine, the spouse isn't mine, all of this. None of it's mine. I just get to use it and let it flow through me and enjoy it. And so since it's not mine, because none of us are going to take it with us, just how do we let it flow so that as we give, so we receive? And giving with joy. If you can't give with joy, just don't even do it. Just don't. If you give in resentment, give in joy of at least the test or the experiment of it. Have fun at testing or experimenting with this. So I thought, okay, well, Petra, what do you have to share about this? Let me get you a mic.
Thank you. So some of you were here a few weeks ago when I sucked all the air out of the room by the first time we talked about tithing this month. So you know that we completely turned this community around twice, as I was interim minister twice when I first got here. We were in debt, and the one thing that we did was we practiced our spiritual practices. And so we tithed first fruits every Sunday. Every Monday morning, counted the money, sent the check off. And that kind of experience. So I'm gonna just suggest that at that moment there wasn't a lot of joy. What there was discipline.
Okay.
A willingness to practice. And in my own life, I had that same experience. I had to test the waters, and I had to make those leaps. Because I was also, when I first got into the spiritual community, I was what they call a tipper. Oh, that was a good talk today. I'll put a little more in there. Oh, wow, the music was really good today. I'll write my check today. I'm really glad I was here. I can give a little money because, wow, the music was really good. That's called tipping, right? And so then moving into a consistent spiritual practice of it was an extraordinary experience. I was making, at the time, $900 a month from my first spiritual community, and my rent was $500 a month. And my car cost me $250 a month. And you want me to tithe? That was a huge leap of faith. But I've always felt that if we have spiritual practices, our job is to practice them, right? And to see what happens. And so began to really work with that in my own life. Now, for me, what happened was the practice of tithing became an opportunity for me to experience the generosity of the universe. And I recognized that it broke my fear around money. Because every time I gave my gift, every time I wrote my check, every time I increased, because I had an increase in salary, it was over and over and over again an opportunity to check my fear, to check my trust in the universe, to check my understanding. And the biggest practice for me was, am I looking at the dot on the whiteboard, or am I looking at the whiteboard? And because I think, Cindy, as you talked about it, right, 10% feels like a whole lot. And Kia, you said, I'm going to lose 10%. You see, that's looking at the dot. That's looking at that. So my discipline was to focus on the fact that if I gave 10% away, the bigger that 10% became, what does that say about the 90%? The bigger the 10% becomes, the 90% must have gotten bigger. Over and over and over again, that was my practice. So I began affirming that I would write tithe checks with commas in them. If I'm giving 10% and there's a comma in it, that 90% must be huge. And that was an opening for me to allow the generosity of spirit to fall into my life. As importantly, man, it really really, this is, I think, the weirdest thing. For me, tithing was one of the ways I opened my heart. Yes? Because I got to experience what it's like to be generous. First, it was a discipline. Then it was an outrageous step. Then it was an opportunity for me to see that the universe was generous with me. But finally, it's a place and an opportunity for me to experience my own generosity. I have so much that I can freely give this. Do you see? As opposed to, I don't have enough, I'm afraid. I have so much. We have so much that in the freely giving, and then it's exactly right. As Karen said, when I don't give, the universe says, you're right. And I say, I don't have enough to give. The universe says, yes, you don't have enough to give. But when I say, oh my gosh, I have so much, this is my joy, my generosity to give, what does the universe say? Yes, you have so much. You have so much to give. And so in all of us, there's whatever process there is, as there is in every single spiritual practice. And I really want you to hear what Karen said. We want this for you. We don't want you to have to waste your mental and spiritual coin on having to manifest some money, something that you need. We don't want you to have to waste your mental and spiritual coin on something that you need, because you deserve to have all of that, right? And when the flow is happening, all of that is taken care of. We want you to be using your mental and spiritual coin to grow your life and to heal the world. And it begins with these kinds of practices. So there you go. Join us in them.
Yes. Yes. So, freely ye have received, freely give. So when the law of circulation is retarded, stagnation results. It's the way it works. And it's only as we allow this divine current, this currency, this current that is there and full and flowing in our life, and we allow it to flow through us, and not hold on to it, not kink it off. It's like a kink toes, we're kinking it off. That when we allow it to flow through us, that we really express life. And the law of giving and receiving is definite. It's working in your life already. We're each at choice of, do we want it to really, really, really work in our life? This thing called money, we've talked about it all month in some shape, form, or fashion, did a workshop on it. It was the largest workshop I think we've had with an inside workshop in over 5 years. It's a topic. And so I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I know from the bottom of Petra's heart, we want this for you, to be in the joy and the flow and the circulation of life itself. And if anybody wants help in that, anybody wants to talk about it, we've got practitioners just so ready. You've got ministers in us so ready to talk to you about it, so that the flow is open. And we have a healthy, financial, prosperous life. Yes. And so we're in this month on prosperity and success, that wherever one is, in any area of our life, we can grow into it more and more by opening up, by stepping out in faith, by knowing that this stuff works. And so I invite Cindy and Kia and Petra to come up here with me. We're going to close out in prayer. I am so grateful that you were concerned for the well-being of my body when I did something that may or may not have been smart. But that you felt inside of yourself for me, that you wanted me to take it off so that my body would be in full circulation and the health of this body, that's how we feel for you. And so, Petra, I'm going to ask you to do the prayer. And we're opening up to the health and the flow of all of our lives, individually and collectively, right here and right now.
So let's go within. So just allowing ourselves to release any thoughts or feelings of anything other than being present in this moment. Take a breath. Let it out. And let's take another breath together. And as we take that breath, we open to the infinite breath. The infinite breath, which is the one life, which is the one love, which is forever breathing into creation. It is the heartbeat of life itself. It is the breath that is blowing in the wind and that is blossoming in the spring flowers. And it is in the eyes of our beloveds. It is the same breath, the same life. And that breath is so freely given. It is so freely given that we can take it in and nothing restricts it. And then we release it effortlessly so that we can take the next breath. This is the one life pouring itself into each one of us. And as we know this truth, we know that each and every one of us are intimately and infinitely joined with that one breath. That our breath is the breath of life. Our breath is nourishing our bodies and releasing anything unlike it back out. And then when we breathe out, we're actually feeding the trees. They need our out breath as much as we need their out breath to feed us in this dance of circulation. And we're a part of it. And because we know this is true, we know that this same thing is true about our prosperity and our abundance. That we are as effortlessly filled by the energy and the presence and the power of life in all ways, in our money, in our good, that it comes to us as easily as we breathe in. But we don't hold our breath, and so we don't hold our good. We know that as we breathe out that good, as we give and share and tithe and commit to the practice of giving, that there is more room left for the in-breath. And the breathing out is a joy. For we know that we are giving, we are blessing, we are feeding, we are returning the same life with which we have been fed and filled, nourished and lifted. And so in this beautiful metaphor of the breath, let us consciously and deliberately recognize that this is true about our money, about our financial freedom and our good. Spirit is forever breathing that financial good into our lives, and we are forever accepting it with our intake. But we don't hold on to it. We commit to the circulation. We commit to the giving out freely and with joy, recognizing the prosperity that we are receiving, that we have already received, and the good of that sharing. The blessing is multiplied over and over and over again, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So right now in this moment, I want you to again take that big breath and recognize that there is enough. There is enough and more than enough, always enough. We accept the enough. We declare the enough. We express the enough. We share the enough. And in that, truly, life is shared. Heaven on earth is made manifest. And we live in that glorious revelation. How good it is. How grateful we are. And what a joy to know the truth, to release any fear or doubt or concern or worry or constriction, to take the tourniquets off our lives and let our good flow. And if you, like me, trust in this process, are willing to declare this truth and stand firmly in this faith, let us say together, and so it is.